What up, everybody? Now I'm going to keep this intro relatively short because it is a jam-packed conversation. It is the longest video I've ever filmed, so I advise you, if you don't have a couple of hours to spare, just watch it in parts because it's jam-packed with a lot of information. But before I get into that, real quick little business. Go to the ROWreporter.com. If you go there, you will see a link to my videos. We have struck up a deal, some sort of partnership to help one another out. I really like his website. It's very informative. I really enjoy it. A lot of fun, and really kind of shows the talent of reality wrestling in a whole new light. So go to the ROWreporter.com. Please, you'll be doing me a service, be doing him a service. RealityWrestling.com, get your details on what took place, the latest TV taping, historic as it was. I won't really get into it because, again, jam-packed episode this week. Now, before I get into that, let's talk about next week real quick. Jasper Davis, the name that entertains, the Hammer, that guy, either way that you know him, he will be on my show in a conversation I filmed a couple of weeks back. So that will be video 214. And then video 215 I will talk about in video 214. There's a hint right there. That's all I'm going to give you. Awesome work, by the way. But now is for my guest. Yes, plural guest. I didn't just get 2 guests this week. No, I got 3. I got Abel, Travis, and Chris, otherwise known as the guys that bring to you Houston Wrestling Radio, the podcast. I was on episode 25. We found that out not during the actual filming of the conversation. We found out like days later. But yeah, that was episode 25, and when they were really kind of getting their start. Now, when this comes out, they will be celebrating episode 100. Really proud of those guys. Glad I was a part of their show in the early days. Really honored that I got to be on their show. So I thought I'd return the favor. More importantly, I want to talk to them about podcasting and viewer exhaustion. And we talked about a variety of topics, including their other projects that they're currently working on, as well as Houston Wrestling Radio, which you can, as you listen, you'll, like I said, listen to it in parts, but really, well, we also talk about the current state of affairs, certain hot topics. We talk definitely about the streak being broken, our thoughts on that. We go into detail. We also go into detail about Brock Lesnar winning the WWE World Heavyweight title. But like I said, the video is about 2 hours, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Abel, Travis, and Chris, the guys behind Houston Wrestling Radio. Until the next time, later! How the tables have turned. Right? You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Gentlemen. He was not at the one we did.
No.
What episode was that?
Ooh, 40-something?
You're already putting us on the spot, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, you're gonna celebrate your 100th.
Yes.
So,
Yes, we are celebrating.
what episode was that?
I want to say early 40s.
Okay.
I was thinking in the 30s for some reason, but
Okay, well, it could be somewhere around there.
Chris, you should know. You listen to
39. All right. Well, someone will check that out, and maybe that'll give them a clue to go check out, past podcasts. Now, how long have y'all been wrestling fans?
Oh, okay.
How long? What was your first memory, or what drove you to it?
Who wants to start with this one?
Me? Okay, I'll go first. All right. Man, I would say when I was around maybe 7 or 8-ish, my dad on the weekends, he always liked to go to this video store that was close to my house, and he would rent a bunch of movies for him and my mom to watch, and then a couple of kids' movies for me to watch. And I would always, pick just whatever cartoons were there.
Yeah.
But one day I went in there and I had seen the majority of the cartoons that were there, and I saw a wrestling VHS tape that was there that was like a collection, and I remember it was called Rampage 91.
Nice.
And it had like all the big matches from WWF from 1991. So I grabbed that one and popped it in. And I don't know if it was necessarily big matches, but I think it was just a compilation of stuff.
Yeah.
And the first match.
Coliseum home video.
Yeah, Coliseum home
There are
video.
no storylines.
Yeah.
It's just we're just gonna put Ed from Poughkeepsie.
The leftovers from Wrestling Challenge.
Yes. Well, the first match that was on there was Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper.
Oh,
nice.
And it was a good match.
Wow.
And I remember freaking out like every 5 minutes, maybe not even 5 minutes, like every couple of minutes, I would pause, run from my room to the front room, and Mom, Dad, he did this and he did that, and then I run back and start, oh my God, Mom, Dad, he went into the...
Oh, it was his first mark out.
Yeah, it was.
Such a milestone.
So every weekend after that, my dad would get real movies, and I'd check out their entire library of WWE stuff.
That's cool.
And they had WCW stuff and old MMA, but like I guess it was when it was just the Ultimate Fighting stuff, not like UFC, like the original the UFC
the
tournament.
human cockfighting.
Yeah.
Guys had gimmicks to some degree.
Yeah. So that was my first time. My
who's next? Who's next in this AA meeting of wrestling?
Okay, so you put it that way. I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I remember going out on field service because my mom was an avid Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
And then she had a Bible study after. Like at 10 o'clock we did field service, and after that, like at 11 she had a Bible study. So I went with her. She did the study with whoever it was, and I was stuck sitting in the room next to them with their kid. And it's channel 39, 11:15, and I'm watching a random episode of Superstars.
Nice.
And I was like, I didn't know what I was watching. I didn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
And my mom noticed that I was very quiet because I'm very hyper as a kid. I still am. And so she's like, "Mijo, ¿cómo estás? ¿Estás bien?" And she saw what I was watching. She's like, "No, eso no es bueno. Es de Satanás el diablo. Es the devil. It's the devil."
And you're like immediately hooked as soon as she said that.
As soon as she said, "I'm not supposed to watch it," done. And ever since then, like I would sneak in like Superstars whenever I could, or I got older, we got cable, so I was watching WCW Saturday Night at 6:05, you know, but they were off doing the build up to like the first Monday Night Raw episodes. So after that, that's when I was in, and then I started looking at older stuff back in the day.
Yeah. Well, for me, just growing up, I'd always catch bits and pieces of Hogan and the Rock and Wrestling connection, all that, you know, the cartoon and everything. So I knew of the characters. I didn't really watch it per se, but I think what really turned me into like a wrestling fan was Ultimate Warrior.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. That was what, 89, 90. That's when he started kind of picking up steam, and then right when Undertaker kicked in 90 Survivor Series, that's when I was like full on. Here we go.
Yeah.
So I would catch all the Superstars on Saturday morning. I would go to a local, it wasn't Hollywood Video at the time, Video Central. That's what it was. And I would catch all the old videos that you can rent, just like your
VHS tapes.
VHS tapes. So ever since then, it's just been there. You go. So.
Now, what made you want to do the podcast? Like, I mean, what prompted you guys to go from probably talking about it, because I'm sure you talked about it. I mean, you get a bunch of wrestlers watching the product. It's I would love to film that at some point. I've always joked that like WrestleMania, we should all like just film it, probably like this, and just film our reaction to whatever's going.
It's funny you should say that, because that's kind of how it started. Abel would come over to my house
every Monday.
He would come over and watch it, and then we would just be cracking ourselves up with some of the stuff we were saying, and it was Abel's idea. It's like, we should be recording this. Why are we recording what we're saying and put it out there? And I was like, you're crazy. That's stupid.
He's like, no one's gonna listen.
Well, that's a little bit of the simplified version. You know, a little bit more behind the scenes on that was, you know, of course, you know, I'd be going over to Travis's and we would talk about it. That's all true. But another part of it is, you know, I would be at work, and at my job I drive around a lot, you know, furniture company or whatever, delivering furniture, picking stuff up, whatever. My coworker is a big sports fan, and he would always be listening to Sports Radio 610 on the company truck. So driving around all day long, and I'm not really that much of a sports fan, and especially at that time. I mean, this was like 2 years ago, so I've since then brushed up a little bit more. But at the time, I was like, man, this would be awesome if they would talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
And since they are, it's a local sports station, every now and again, if somebody is a wrestling fan, they'll sneak in a little analogy here or there or whatever, and I'd mark out, it's like, oh, this guy who talks about football, they actually likes wrestling. And I thought, well, man, we could do this. I'm like, well, hell, me and Travis do this already. We just talk about wrestling while we record it. And that's when I brought it up to him, and we talked about it for like, what, 2-3 months before we did it?
Yeah, we're busy.
It was my birthday that my girlfriend Randy got me the microphone.
Right.
And then when I was, well, she got us the microphone, I guess this means we
now you had no excuse.
And we have to,
What am I going to do with this thing? I don't know.
But then this guy, well... throw out your story.
We invited him over one day and he just never left.
He's like, you do this every week? I will be part of this conversation.
Food, air conditioning, water. Okay, shade, talk. Okay.
So who came up with the format? I mean, y'all seemingly have, most podcasts that do it have similar pod where it is, but who came up with the format for your show?
It was kind of a process.
Mm-hmm.
We
Trial
just
and error.
we just started and we're like, well, what are we going to talk about? And well, Raw was good and SmackDown wasn't. And I think really early on we had like little segments that we tried to do stuff with. We actually had Randy on the show there for a few episodes too.
Sexy ghost.
The sexy ghost, yeah. So it was a lot of trial and error. I mean, there was a lot of figuring out what actually worked. So I don't know. I don't know if we're done with that yet.
Oh, yeah,
it's still a process.
Yeah, every week we sit there for 30 minutes just saying, okay, what are we going to start with?
What doesn't bother us the most? What bothers us the most?
Our goal is just to try to get something to maybe entice the fans to listen to the whole show, maybe talk about some smaller stuff first, and then talk about the big stuff so they have to listen to it.
Yeah, you always want to have that teaser, kind of like a wrestling show. You want to keep them invested.
Yeah, you got to build the cards.
So, interviews, I mean, y'all had kind of a who's who on y'all's show. Any guest in particular really stand out, like you were amazed? Like at some point you had to think, wow, we've got to the point where we can actually sit down and have a conversation with, a particular guest. Is there a particular guest that you guys were really
the
blown away?
Best one we ever did was with this guy called Steve DeMarco.
Oh, episode 30 to 45. We're not really sure. We're taking, if you can hashtag, and I don't have Twitter, which video, which podcast was that? No, but aside from...
Just go listen to all the old ones. You'll get
eventually you might as well. I mean, it'd be good to listen to where you started to where you are now. But yeah, back to, is there any guest that, like, you had to pinch yourself?
Chris? I toss this to you because you always say that, oh man, this was our best interview.
Oh, Tito Santana.
There you go.
Tito Santana.
Man.
We even before I got there, I've heard a lot of their episodes, not all of them. But even when I started it's been a lot of local indie guys where there's no pressure. Like we just sit down with you guys and we just shoot the shit and we just ask random questions or we get to know each other better. But Tito Santana was probably like our first like legit WWE Hall of Famers.
That was pretty early on.
And so we literally spent the whole week when we found out that we were going to have Tito on that week, and we were just coming up with questions and going through
did some research.
We researched.
Yeah, I don't research to do I'm just like, oh man, I don't know if I don't know people that well. I'm always like, nah, that's part of the process is getting to know them. But yeah, I figured talking to a WWE Hall of Famer, a guy that we all probably grew up on,
Travis was all like antsy because he was like, oh my god, it's Tito Santana.
I didn't want to mess it up.
I remember once we finished and we clicked, stop, and we hung up the phone. I think there was this moment of, oh my God, we just talked to Tito Santana. You know, and, you know, we had to like take a moment before we could record the rest of the show, take a break, get some water, you know, calm down. Like, all right, now let's talk about Raw. You know, so yeah, that was cool. Another one that's the quality of the interview probably wasn't as good as the Tito Santana one, but just the name of it just kind of drew a lot of attention. Was Scott Hall.
Yeah,
you know, we had Scott Hall on the show, and that's probably one of our highest rated episodes ever.
Yeah.
It still gets hits, you know, even to this day, 1 or 2 extra hits, you know, just randomly, even though it's, you know, months old.
Yeah.
You know, it was right before WrestleMania, and still people are listening to it. So I wish we could have got a little bit more time out of it, because from what I understand, Scott Hall's a little squirrely when it comes to talking with podcasters, because I guess he's had so many bad experiences over the years with media types, you know, they're just trying to, you know, dig dirt on him.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we acknowledge and we try not to do. You know, we try to treat our guests a little bit nicer, and, you know, just have a nice, friendly conversation, and not, hey, we're trying to get dirt on you type of thing, you know. And I think that Scott coming in with that mindset that we're gonna, you know, oh, these are just another podcast, he kind of was had a wall. When we started talking to him, but the wall came down a little bit, but he still had to go. Yeah. You know, I'd love to have him on the show again. I hope he remembers us, and maybe now that the wall is down, maybe, you know, we'll have a better flow of conversation. But it was still a good interview having him on the show. So
I gotta say, it's probably not maybe our best interview, but the funniest interview, I think. Scott Steiner.
Oh, wow.
All 2 minutes of it.
Oh wow, 2 minutes of.
And
tell them how you got the interview?
Yeah, you got to set up the background on that one.
Were you on your phone and just trying to work?
Pretty much.
Okay.
No, it was last year's Comic Palooza, which is a Houston-based comic convention, and we through different means we found it. We caught up with his manager.
Okay.
And we. Like, okay, you can go. You can do. Just go there. We can give you about 5 minutes.
Nice.
So at the booth.
At his booth, where he's signing autographs.
Wow. Okay.
So we just went over there with. It was like guerrilla warfare. It was like. Okay. I was holding the phone. We had the record on the phone, and he had like questions, and we were like, okay, go.
And I just went behind the table and just kneeled down next to him because he was sitting down, and we're like, oh, this is Abel with Houston Wrestling Radio. I'm here with Scott Steiner, and. Go. And I was like, yeah, so how do you like Houston? And he's like, oh, I've been here, plenty of times, blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember exactly how we got to where we got to. And like I said, it was just 2 minutes. Yeah. But he just started talking about, like, weed. Nice. And he, like, dropped an F-bomb. Nice. And it was like, okay, cool, that's all we need.
in between, they're making fun of people dressing up for the convention.
Oh, yes, that's what it was. Yeah, it's like all these people walking around here, dressing like idiots.
Scott Steiner, just
that's hilarious.
That set the tone for what he did the rest of the weekend. Yeah. Apparently, everybody knows what he did that weekend.
Oh wow.
NWA, right?
Yeah. NWA was having a event there at Comic Palooza, and Scott Steiner. Family-friendly event, and Scott Steiner grabbed a microphone. This motherfucker here thinks he's gonna beat me. I'm gonna fucking kick his ass.
Wow,
and all this and that. And oh man, it was quite the stir that it caused.
I would like to have seen the expression on the promoter's face as he's cutting this profanity with this promo. Well, okay, so you guys have done about 100 episodes. I mean, by the time we air this, it'll probably be the 100th episode. So. Right. Because you guys usually come out on Wednesdays or Tuesdays. Wednesdays. It might come out simultaneously. Who knows? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to it. But it's your job now to watch the product. It's your job now. I mean, honestly. Well, no, that's you. Well, no. That's why I don't do it. That's why I have interviews and I try to stay away from talking about.
Oh, you're doing it right.
Yeah, I've tried prediction shows; those never work out well. I used to do a yearly review. That never works out well because then, or if I have to watch a show, I have to jot notes. Yeah, and I don't want to jot notes. Or luckily they'll have the results. Well, luckily they'll have the results. So if I watch it, and then look at the results, I can kind of, hopefully I remember it, because it's sad if a day's pass and I forget what happened on Raw. But that's usually what happens. Y'all have to watch all the product. I mean, like Raw, SmackDown, Impact. Y'all watch NXT. Is that something y'all also?
Not consistently.
Not consistently. No, I'm like 3 or 4 weeks out. I know they have like their next big, their big special, and I haven't watched for like 2 or 3 weeks. I know Kent is supposedly on the show. I'm kind of eager to see what, you know, for all the people that are Punk fans, and I was a Punk fan, you'll see the Punk offense done really well, because Kenta...
If they allow him to.
Yeah. No, they're going to allow him to. I think you don't take a guy like that and go, well, what do we do with him? Like, even if you watered him down as much as WWE will, only because they want them to slow down, I think he's still going to be one of those guys. But having to watch it now, it's your job. It's not I mean, the podcast is your job for all intents and purposes, whether you make a lot of money or little money, or it's
or
just
no money,
or any money, you know, or it's just like, oh man,
we're in the hole.
You have to really, yeah.
He pawned his.
How is it? How is it for you now? You're not watching it just to watch it. More importantly, you can't miss it, even if you'd love to miss it. Even if it wasn't something, there was something else. Come Monday night, you have to. I'm the same way. I have to watch it by the end of Monday night.
Here's the thing with that. We talked about this in the last few episodes. It's too much now.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 3 hours on Monday. You got Tuesday. You have NXT. You have Impact. You have SmackDown is 2 hours. So there's all kinds. Not mentioning the network, all the stuff that's on there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
and
overload.
that's just WWE and TNA.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not including ROH, PWG, any of the local stuff that we do cover and try to cover.
Yeah.
You know, it is a lot, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because I remember when we had you on our show. That was something that you asked us. You know, we were interviewing.
Well, I was real curious because, like, for me, I watch it religiously. It's part of my deal. I've been watching it forever. When the Monday Night Wars were going on, I was one of those guys. So watching a lot of wrestling doesn't kill me. Like, I don't mind. Like, me and my girlfriend joke, because every Monday night I could get home at like 10 p.m. and be like, no, I have to watch the entire 3 hours. And it's not, and I can't fast forward through it because I honestly have to look at it to see what they're doing.
Yeah. That's the
so that when we do ROW, I go, well, look at what they're doing. You know, like, to get guys prepared for the next level, that's what you have to do. You have to look at the product and go, well, what's working, what's not working. Same thing with Impact. Although I can fast forward through Impact because some of it I can't sit through. And SmackDown I like watching because it's usually the first run of matches. Like, that's where if they're going to make mistakes, it's, okay, let's test 2 guys out. Great, on Raw, we'll hype it up as whatever. Or we'll just continue to do the same match for weeks on end. But how is it for you guys? Like, is it purely exhausting because you have to watch it? Because I'm a fan. Like, I still watch it, and it doesn't bother me. Of course, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many shows. Never seen Game of Thrones. That's one that fell through the wayside. I had to skip years of Dexter, and then I caught it on the last. And kind of glad that I jumped in at the end because of the way it ended. Breaking Bad, like, stuck, and I'm like, if it was on Mondays, I would not be watching Raw. But yeah, for you guys, I mean, how has it like diminished your love of it?
Well, when you asked us on our show, my answer at that time was, no, it hasn't really changed the way that we watch wrestling, and that's how I felt at that time. Now a year and a half later, there is a little bit of a difference because I am looking at the product in a different way. I'm looking at it for not what it could be, but for what it is. Yeah. You know, and I think when I was more of a fan of it, I would read the rumors and what could happen, what this and that. But now it's like, well, they're booking this guy this way. They should be booking it this other way. but we can only really talk about what we actually see. And as far as like predictions go, rumor mills go, well, we got to have a little bit of journalistic integrity, and we can't just throw out all the rumors that we read on the internet and just kind of look at it like, well, this is what we think's going on. You know, I mean, there's some things that are out there that we just can't avoid if there's a big enough rumor or whatever. But we even approach it as, you know, after we're done talking about it, we approach it as, yeah, but that's just a rumor. You know, so we try to kind of look at it more of a, at least for me anyway, it's more of an analysis point of view. And, you know, you guys are talking about like how much content is out there and how much sacrifice it is, you know, to watch all this. You're sacrificing Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and all this other awesome TV. For me, I get made fun of by these two all the time because I don't watch anything else. You know, they have this other show, Pop Culture Rewind, where they're talking about like pop culture stuff other than wrestling. I'm not on the show because I don't know jack shit about it. I
just thought this was
wrestling.
I just thought this was a split. Like Travis was like, man, I'm done talking to you. I want to talk on my own show. And Abel's like, well, sure.
I want to hog up the airtime too.
No,
but in reality, you're like, no, I just don't. Okay, so it would have been
like they start talking about movies. They start talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds cool. All right, awesome.
You're like, but did you see what was happening on the network? There's a lot of stuff going on. That would be Abel's response to it.
Right,
pretty much. So that's me. But yeah, it does kind of feel like a job in some sense. Because there's some things where I'm like, God, I don't feel like watching this episode of SmackDown.
Yeah.
Or this episode of Impact. At least maybe 2 months ago with Impact. You know, the last month of Impact's been pretty good. You know, well, now a month and a half by the time this airs. But you know, there's been those times where it's like, man, I don't want to see this. I wish I could just be a fan and just decide what I want to watch. But now I have to watch everything. You know, so there's not much of a choice on there. Luckily for me, I don't mind it. But I don't know. Chris, what do you think?
You have to, because that's your state of mind.
Yeah.
It's easier from a different point of view to reflect on how everything's coming up. I mean, right now it's just, for me, it's all about the state of wrestling. When it's good, I'll watch as much of it as I can, especially since the main stuff, like when Raw's good and SmackDown's good, I'm all on it. When it's bad, I was like, you know what, I'll fast forward through some of this. Like,
don't worry, we're gonna get into some gripes here.
Like, you know what, I'll go out to dinner on Friday. You know what? I'll watch Walking Dead again. You know what? I'll get laid. You know what? I'll do something else.
Whereas you're like, you know what? No, I'm going to skip that meal. Honey, I'll talk to you in a couple of hours. There's a really good episode of SmackDown going on.
You know, it's easy to get, when it's good, it's worth talking about. When it's not good, it's easy to say, oh, you know what? SmackDown was so bad, I wish I wouldn't have watched it. Well, you know what? I didn't watch it. You know why? Because the last couple of weeks, it's been bad. Half of SmackDown's on Raw, the other half of SmackDown, you're going to see it on next week's Raw.
Although, sometimes when it is bad, it makes for a good podcast episode where we're like complaining about stuff. That's when we get passionate when they do something wrong. Oh my God, I can't believe they booked John Cena like this. Why don't they do this? We get worked up about it by complaining.
You?
No, you guys remember the, well, TNA's just stupid. Like, you do too. You do too.
Hey man, there's nothing wrong with admitting you get passionate about it. I mean, I watch it. There's some times where I have to turn it off and walk out of the room.
That's only because we like it so much.
No,
I care. We just be like, man,
exactly.
What's next?
I think for me, it was getting to the point where I was trying to make it a point to watch everything. And doing that for a while and doing the podcast every week, I was starting to get burnt out of the actual wrestling aspect of it. Yes, I didn't want to watch anymore, and then I kind of changed my tune a little bit, and I was like, okay, I'm just if I feel like watching it, I'm going to watch it. If something comes up or I'm busy that week or whatever, if I miss it, I'm not going to kill myself trying to get caught up with it. You know, we got 3 guys on our podcast here. One of us is bound to watch something
of it.
That
just
is
relay
true.
the info.
Yeah, we get to tag team on it sometimes. Like, hey, did you watch Impact? No. Did you watch NXT? Yeah. Okay, well then we could, you know, like last week, you missed everything because you went on vacation. So, but you know, we were able to, you know, talk about what actually happened, and when you heard about what happened, that's when you.
Then I said, yeah, I saw Monday Night Wars, and it was actually better than that, and that.
So yeah, I guess when you're running a 3-man crew, if somebody misses one thing, at least you know the other person's there to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I remember anytime a pay-per-view's in town, in the area, I'll go to see it. At the time, these two had no intent of even watching Slammiversary. I drove to Dallas to watch it live in person.
Yeah.
So whatever these two didn't get, and I picked up the slack on it, and just like every other situation, Travis has a DVR with like terabytes of memory on it, and all kinds of episodes and porn and shit and anime. And whenever I miss something before I get to Travis' house ready before Boss Man Hefe shows up, and we go through what I missed just so we'll be ready.
Yeah, every week it's becoming like a ritual. Like he gets here like an hour before Abel is like, okay, what happened? Do you still have Impact on DVR? Okay, let's watch it.
Like cramming for a test in college or something.
Yeah.
Next month it'll be Walking Dead. Like, oh man, what did I miss on Walking Dead? Because I could tell that Travis was getting burnt out. So during the show, or even after we stopped talking about the wrestling stuff, we just started shooting the shit about anything.
Yeah.
And it turned out that people liked hearing that.
Okay.
You know.
Well, people, us.
Yeah, we like hearing this.
No, we just like talking about it more than okay.
But it kind of relieved the tension that even bringing him in, there's times where we talk that's not wrestling and we get his, it's just like, oh, I remember that, and we just started shooting, like getting into it and start adding it into the episode so it doesn't feel so like forced, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's times where it feels like, oh man, we gotta watch it.
Well, no, I've heard a couple episodes here and there, and you can kind of tell from a listener standpoint when you guys just are doing your job versus like, man, I really want to talk about this. And I think sometimes there's like Solid Monster, I listen to his, and in part why I listen to his religiously is because he doesn't cover the entire show. He goes, look, I got to catch this, I got to catch this, and he just gives a few points. He doesn't break it down so much. I've never heard him just be tired. And sometimes I hear you guys, and I mean, don't get me wrong, talking about it is exhausting.
Yeah.
Watching it, and then I try to, for the longest time, as a wrestler, I have to watch it and analyze it. When I was booking, same thing, like analyze it to see, and even now, but my job with ROW is a lot different where I'm not the focal point of creative, so I can turn my brain off and just kind of go, okay, let's just be a fan and see if it piques my attention. Mind you, that's still difficult when I fall out of the story, but I've heard some episodes and sometimes it just sounds like, last show I think that I heard was 98, and it was probably the worst episode of Raw that they've put out in quite a while, and you guys were really passionate, and I found myself kind of agreeing. There's sometimes I don't agree with everything, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah.
Speaking of the gripes, let's talk about gripes, and we'll start with one that I didn't see coming. When WrestleMania 30 came, I assumed it was just going to be another day at the office, and we were building to 31 with Sting and Undertaker. And I was like, that's what's going to happen. Where Brock is just, he's just coming in to put guys over. That's how we perceived him. The way they told the story, he looked scared. I think I personally was like, I took it for granted. Last year I looked at Punk and Taker and thought, oh, well, if anyone can do it, if they're really going to repay this guy for kind of jobbing him out of a beautiful, epic, long title reign, and like, well, you're still not the top guy. John Cena's the top guy. Sorry, Punk.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll give it to you. Like, I could have seen it. That didn't happen. But this year I thought Brock was, going to be 22, and we were going to all debate about Taker, Sting, like, for the next year. Like, they were going, oh, the next night on Raw, here comes Sting off the rafters. Oh, my God. And it didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I watched it kind of on a delay, and I try not to watch Facebook. My internet was having a problem at the network. I was going to watch it on the network. All my friends went to the pay-per-view. A lot of them told me, what are you doing watching on network? And I'm like, well, it's $9.99, man. I'm just going to watch it here.
How much is that again?
$9.99. Hey, man, greatest marketing ploy because we all say it. It's like in your brain. It just rattles in. You may not get it, but it's only $9.99. Like, I have Netflix. Why not? Anyway, so I watched Facebook, and of course, the spoilers and there weren't spoilers. People were reacting as it was happening. Not something I can do either. I don't have a Twitter because I would probably live tweet about the show and I would completely lose track of what I was watching. But what were your thoughts when, like, it's the mute button on WrestleMania? That packed house, like at the end of it, you wouldn't have imagined that it was so silent, but it was eerie. Yeah. Like, everyone thought it was a mistake, like, oh crap, the ref messed up. But what were y'all's views when the streak? We live in a world now. Your childhood's officially been robbed.
You want me to go?
Yeah. What was your thought when it was the 3 and you knew now you've grown up because your childhood has been destroyed? Not because Michael Bay remade Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but because the streak is broken. So
so you told him about that too, huh?
No. My childhood was ruined by Teenage Mutant. I haven't even watched the movie. I will not go see it. But anyway, let's go back to the streak. Pop culture, I could do that one. But let's get back to the streak being broken. Brock's hand raised. You see Paul Heyman. You see the black guy with a meme. Like that guy was a meme, internet sensation for a bit. So what was your
a pause for a second after the bell rang? Laughter. I laughed my ass off. Nice. I don't know why. I just couldn't believe they did it, and that was my reaction. They got me. So
Travis's reaction was the opposite reaction of everyone else in that building. Apparently, Travis just laughed.
I'm sure if you go back and watch the pay-per-view on the network for $9.99, when the bell rings, you might be able to hear me laughing.
You're like the one singer.
Probably.
Yes. Like one guy has found joy. Oh my God!
Just look for that white speck up in the rafters.
Yeah, but I love when Travis gets to tell that story because Chris and I we had the typical oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I stood up, put my hands on my head, and just what? And I couldn't say anything. And Chris, what was your reaction?
I had a lockjaw for 30 seconds.
Wow. Yeah.
So our reaction's the same as everybody else, so it's not as entertaining of a story. But this guy over here, he just thought it was a great troll of everything. He just started laughing.
They're like, so you didn't see it coming, did you? Yeah. So, I mean,
I think everybody took the streak for granted.
Yeah, I said that when I was talking to Brad. I think we all did. I think it became one of those things where it didn't matter who he was going to face. He was ultimately going to win, and we started to plan ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't think anything should be taken for granted like that. The streak. And I did find myself, because I thought after 29, there just was no way. Anyone is going to beat this guy. Oh, you bring in Cena, no, that... but more importantly, the opinion of the internet was such that no one liked it. No one liked it. There was not one person that was going to sit there and go, that was the right guy. Because everybody wanted, and I've listened to multiple pundits of it. I've heard friends of mine talk about it. I've heard Stone Cold say it. I've heard Jim Ross say it. No one saw it. I've told this story ad nauseum that if my dream when I got into the business at some point when I moved to Houston was I'm going to make the WrestleMania 25 roster, and I'm going to challenge The Undertaker, and I'm going to go down in that blaze of glory. I'm losing to this guy. I didn't care about.
It's an honor to lose.
It's man, you just go out as a warrior, and of course, you speak of 25. There's Shawn Michaels, and oh my God, probably the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. But still, we all took it for granted, or we all assumed that someone else. I personally was why not Brock? Yeah. If you. I'm sorry, there are very few guys that if I were in a locker room that I'm going to literally kind of be intimidated. There's not, and I can only think of two, Taker and Brock. I see Brock walking down a locker room. I don't care if he's having a good day, bad day. I'm going to be polite to that guy and civil to him, but I will stay out of his way. I can't say that about anyone. The Triple H, Vince McMahon, Booker T, I'm just hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
But Taker, first time I saw him in a locker room, I went, wow, no, that's, man,
intimidating
to be that guy. And then on the flip, to see it from his end. But why do you think there was such a backlash? Because honestly, WWE gave you something that we're still going to talk about. A year from now.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
I think going back to what you were saying about Brock, I believe we almost were putting the pieces together before WrestleMania. That
you were.
That
I
Brock,
was completely shocked, but you were putting the pieces.
Because Brock was. I was thinking, going back to when I filmed CM Punk, and CM Punk was at a Wizard World.
Yeah.
And I filmed the thing and I put it up there, but he was saying on there, who wants to be the guy in the locker room? Who wants that heat to beat the Undertaker? Nobody wants that heat. So Brock, being not a roster guy, he's this part timer. He's doing his own thing. He wouldn't care if he had the heat. Yeah, you know. So it makes perfect sense for Brock to be doing it. But I think at the time we were just in denial. We're like, no one's going to beat it. You know, Brock can try, sure. But he's not going to win. But we were kind of putting the pieces together before. Well, this might happen. Yeah. But ultimately, like you said, no one thought that was actually going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thought that trigger would be pulled, or that it's at this point it's Taker's call, or like, I don't know. He's just a performer like anybody else, and whatever the boss says, you just kind of go, okay, whatever you need. I'm, if you're a company guy, which we'll talk about company guy here in a little bit. So yeah, any other thoughts as far as like the backlash? Because I always, again, the various podcasts I listen to, there are a lot of guys probably in the same boat as y'all. Fans loved it, wanted to talk about it, something you thought you could have fun. 2 years later, you're going, Christ Almighty, why do I have to talk about this product? When it's bad, when you go, man, and the Attitude Era was so this. That we put it on a pedestal and we forget about all the misses of those shows. Like, we don't think about how bad it. Luckily, there's the network now. For $9.99. Anyway, apparently you go back and watch all that. But just the backlash, because again, a lot of people's opinion of WWE is it's predictable, it's formulaic, it's very few times can they truly swerve you. Especially in this day and age with so much going on and everyone talking about, I've never heard about so many contracts being talked about. Brock Lesnar's contract being what's in the contract. I'm like, what did it matter about contracts? I remember Brian Pillman signing a contract. I was pretty excited about that because they did a press conference. But yeah, like the backlash for them pulling the trigger. I mean, is it because it was the streak and we all felt like it was something? Or was it everyone's scared of change?
Well, I think it was just a perfect storm of all those things. You know, the fear of change. Yeah, that's definitely one thing. Yeah. You know, just the fact that there's people that just lost money on their betting pool. Yeah. Just the fact that WWE did such a good job at swerving us. Yeah, yeah. You know, it's so many factors that just made it to be the knee-jerk reaction of, I can't stand this. Yeah, even now, just 6 months out now, I'm starting to be swayed the other way, saying, well, maybe this wasn't that bad. What I am opposed to is having Taker continue to wrestle at WrestleMania once a year, already with a blemish on his streak. Like, if he becomes, 27-5. Like, okay, no, you should have ended it there. I've always been of the opinion that it should have ended at 20-0. Nice round number, end of an era type. Even that's what they said the match was, end of an era, and all that. So I was like, I thought that's when it should have ended. And there was one time that we had another local guy, Kid Ransom, on our show, and we were talking to him about it. And I remember, saying just that. No, it needs to stop at 20-0. If you take away Undertaker's streak, you take a really big chunk of who the Undertaker is, and I was so against it at the time because I said at the time, and I'm probably wrong on this, but what I said was if you take away Undertaker's streak, it diminishes his legacy. And Kid Ransom told me the opposite. No, he's the Undertaker. Yeah. Even if he loses a streak, you're not going to make him a Hall of Famer? He's not going to be the legendary Undertaker, the most respected guy in wrestling? He's still going to be that guy. So, you know what, Kid Ransom? I was wrong, sir.
Yeah.
But at the time, that's what my opinion was. And then when the streak happened, that's when I thought, oh my God, the Undertaker isn't the Undertaker anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
He's lost the streak. I mean, he's what, 4-time champ?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not like Orton 14, Cena 15, Flair 16-time champ. He's just a 4-time champ.
Yeah,
you know?
but at the same time,
yeah.
you know, I think anyone who would think of it that way, and I had this same conversation with Brad. Like, you look at John Cena and his, you know, epic 15-time title reign, or you look at Randy Orton 12-time, which for any third-generation superstar, I'm sure you should be guaranteed 5 just coming as soon as you sign a contract. But you know, so he's lived up to expectations. But the thing is, with either guy, their wins I don't remember them.
Right.
I remember JBL, John Cena, which talk about formula. You look later on in the show, and you got Triple H and Batista doing like the exact same match, spot for spot almost. But outside of that, very few in this epic guy's career. And then you look at Undertaker, you say like 4. Well, a few of them happened at WrestleMania. I remember those.
Yeah.
The Edge one, man, amazing. The Batista one, which I was like, no, there's no way. And then his era with Triple H, where everyone gives Triple H so much grief, and I'm like, man, the guy's a phenomenal worker. He worked his way right into like the top position in the company. No, he's a great worker though. And the Punk stuff. I was just curious about the backlash, you know, like especially with a guy like Brock, which on the flip side, there's always the complaint, how you book Brock. You brought in this guy from the UFC, not that he was undefeated at the UFC. I always want to remind people, like, man, that's the guy's first UFC fight that I saw, and I'm not a big UFC fan, but because Brock was on the bill, I went, oh, I'll pay that damn money to watch it. Much like Ronda Rousey now, I go, well, I will pay. I don't care. She's attractive. Brock, oh, that's a WWE guy. He nearly broke his neck. I want to see that. So I was always okay with the way they booked it, because when Cena beat him, it was like took a chain, boom. Oh, of all the things, a bunch of weapons. It wasn't like one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because we saw what happened when they did one-on-one, straight up, nobody, no interference, nothing else. Triple H, it took everything in his arsenal, including the sledgehammer. I mean, it took stuff. And then he goes on this tear. What do you think of him as champ? Potentially as champ moving forward.
Oh, okay.
I mean, let's put it this way. Everyone assumed one way or the other, there's no way they're going to give the title to Brock, even though people wanted it. People wanted it. The guy who took the streak. That's what a heel does. He takes things that people want. That's what a true heel does. Everyone, I hear Jim Ross sometimes. It's not true heel. I'm like, no, he takes stuff from people. You like the streak? Well, I'll take that from you.
Yeah.
You like Shawn Michaels' dancer? I'll break his arm. Oh, you like Punk? I'll force him to leave the company because he'll never want to face me again. That's what I really think happened. They went, oh, at some point you're going to have to face Brock. No. I've had a good one. Thanks, guys.
I think me and Chris were on the same opinion of Brock as champ.
Okay.
We were kind of we like it.
Yeah.
You know, it gives it something. It's something different. It's a part timer. The champ doesn't always have to be on every show.
Yeah.
And it builds up. You have him in there as the mouthpiece to kind of generate heat while he's not there.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of like in that where you have to have the network
in
to
the
see
marketing.
Brock.
Yeah.
To
Hey,
see
you
Brock
want to see the
Lesnar.
champ? $9.99.
Yeah.
Now Abel, you're on the counterpoint to that.
Yeah, I did, although I'm starting to sway myself towards your point. But
It's too late now.
Yeah.
The bandwagon's full.
Oh no, it's never full. Brock has big shoulders.
Yes, he
And
does.
He doesn't mind people. He doesn't care what
He
you
doesn't
think.
look how big Brock Lesnar's shoulders are.
Oh.
That's not what he looks.
Okay, but your initial counterpoint to it.
My initial counterpoint is, by giving the title to a guy that's not going to be on your show all the time, you're taking a chess piece off of the board. You're playing with one less thing that you could use to fill time for your show. You know, and a very, very important piece, not just a pawn, but, you know, quite possibly the king or the queen. You know, you're taking the world champ, the guy that everybody's supposed to want to see, tune in to see, that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether he's a heel or a face or whatever, people want to see the champ, and you give it to a guy that's not going to be there all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's my initial gripe. And if this was not the $9.99 network era, I think my argument would be stronger. But I think since they're using that as the carrot to dangle for you to go and spend the money to get the network to see our champ actually wrestle, I think there's a bit of genius to that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just to force people to spend the dough to see the champ. You know, so there's a little bit of forgivableness there. But if this was an era where TNA had the backing, had the money, had the primetime slot, where they were going head to head with Raw, you'd be damn sure that you'd have the title on a guy that could be on your show every night, so you could win the second Monday Night War against TNA.
Yeah.
You know, but there's not that competitor there. As much as TNA's been good the last month, TNA is not competing. It's not competition for WWE. As much as we would want to say it is. Same with ROH, PWG, all these other awesome wrestling promotions that put on a great product. They're just not at the same level. But you know, because of that, since they're running unopposed, they could kind of get away with this funny stuff where they're dangling carrots in a different direction to, hey, buy the network. Hey, do what we want you to do. Hey, watch here, watch there. So, yeah, I can see where that is, but maybe I'm just not ready for the change yet. Maybe that's what it is, and maybe I need to slowly get there. But as of right now, I don't like the fact that your champ is a part-time guy. But I do like the fact that Brock Lesnar is the champ. Yeah. You know, I like Brock. Yeah. I'm liking him more so now, especially that they're not giving him a live microphone. If they're doing the backstage vignettes, having Paul Heyman talk for him and have him take care of the dirty work in the ring and do it to an amazing show of violence. I like that. Yeah. But just the whole part-time thing, that's the one thing that I have issue with, but I'm not as hard on that issue as I was before. I'm starting to wane a little bit on it.
Well, I kind of goes back to taking things for granted. Okay. You think of prior to this year, you had 2 world heavyweight champions. We'd all debate about their use on the card, why the world heavyweight title, probably the grandest heavyweight title in the history of the business, especially when Ric Flair made it so famous, to be like shackled to the opening of SmackDown on some occasions, or the, you know, like, and you just weren't invested. Right. And then you take a guy who finally kind of broke through the ceiling in CM Punk, again having this epic run and really having to deal with the fact that he wasn't the top guy. There was John, who, it didn't matter who he faced. Didn't matter who he faced. He could face John Laurinaitis and we'd all go, crap, I guess that's going to be the main event. Why not? Yeah. Why not put Punk, the money, you've already sold out the show. So you could have put Cena as a, this is a special attraction. He's our Hogan. It doesn't matter. He can be anywhere in the card. It's a big deal. Why not put Punk ahead? So with that in mind, and then they go, let's combine these 2 damn things. Let's give you Daniel Bryan. All you fans love him. I loved him. I've loved him since he wore a mask and was wrestling at TWA. I think the kid's a phenomenal athlete. I think it sucks the fact that at WrestleMania 30 you see this guy no-selling the beating of his life. I mean, he beats Triple H outright when no one thought he would. And we were all like, no, there's no way. WWE's not going to pull that trigger. Hunter's ego won't allow it to happen. And we all forget that Hunter's job is to put over everyone, and he does. At WrestleMania, he's not undefeated. He always gets beat in one way or the other. And then you end the night, and then like literally a month later, this guy's career's in jeopardy. And they go, well, what the hell are we going to do? Because I think originally it was going to be Daniel Bryan, this underdog of a champion, and then we're going to bring in the Beast because apparently no one else can beat you. I think that's the original idea. Yeah. Once Punk left, they went, crap. Well. Yeah,
Punk threw a monkey wrench in a lot.
Well, I think in a way it also may have been that jolt, like, crap. Well, Daniel doesn't argue. He doesn't disagree with what you do. If you want to beat him down, handcuff him, he's cool with it. He doesn't care. He doesn't listen to the press. He doesn't care what podcasters say. He doesn't care what the critics say. He's probably doing the best work he's done in his entire career. That includes Ring of Honor. That includes all that stuff that a lot of people go, oh, those were great matches. No, the matches at WrestleMania were awesome. If he never wrestles again, that is awesome. Because those 2 matches were like, Christ, they threw everyone at him.
Yes,
I was expecting like Taker to come out from the grave, Sting to drop. No, we'll just throw him.
I even called it on the show when we covered it that following Tuesday. I was like, man, I was expecting another Katrina and the
like the lights go out,
everything, and still
the Shield turns heel, the Wyatts, everyone. They do all that, and again, John is, which we'll get into him post SummerSlam. But yeah, he has to take. He's the most durable guy. They go, well, John, shit, we got nothing else. Our guy, well, he's not. He's injured, and the guy we want to be the guy. God, he's like 3 years in the business. What do we do? We're gonna give him the keys? Guys, I don't know. I don't know about that. Dean Ambrose, maybe. I'd be all right with that. Seth Rollins, maybe. Give Daniel Bryan his spot back when he gets back. We'll all be happy. Give Sting a run. I don't care. Be something
I don't want to
different.
see Sting run.
No, you don't want to see him.
I don't want to see Sting
okay. But anyway, so SummerSlam. I mean, like I said, John. I've never really had an issue with John. John Cena to me, God, he's the epitome of what they're looking for. Looks good. He's clean cut. Doesn't have any tattoos. Never in trouble with the law. Never pops positive for anything. He gets a divorce. Oh my God, it's a wrestling statistic. That's the biggest blemish. Oh, and he's dating Nikki Bella and won't commit to her. Buy her house, he won't commit to her. But wow. You know what? But if you're not a fan of his, watch him on Total Divas. The few times I've seen him, like he had some speech, and he would, oh my God, I was like, my God, you're the man, John. But anyway, I have no ill will towards him. I don't have any ill will towards what they do with him. Because he's always been that guy they could rely on. More than any other guy, they put him in a good spot because, well, if we give it to Triple H, God, that's going to suck. Everyone's going to hate us because we give it to Triple H, and that's politics. We give it to this guy. Oh, Brock's not around because he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. Well, let's give it to this kid. This kid has nothing else. We'll just give it to him. And then he gets destroyed by Brock. Destroyed. What was going through your mind when he's landing on his neck? I mean, there were a couple of Germans that it was like, John, just
stay down.
Just stay down. I'm a wrestler, and I'm going, John, man, it's cool, dude. Just.
That's a bump I'm not going to take.
Yeah, no, I'll take it. If I'm working Brock, you throw me around, whatever. I know what the payday is at the end of the day. I know if my neck gets broke there, they're like, well, we've got people. Don't worry, we'll take good care of you. Here's your paycheck. Thank you, Brock. I'm off for like 8 months. But okay. So during that beating, that some people called a raping. I mean, there was like, it was Doomsday versus Superman, and Doomsday destroys Superman.
Yeah. Doomsday versus Super Cena.
So what happened? I mean, what were y'all thinking? As you watched it, as it unfolded, as the first F5, and you're like, oh crap, he's not. Is it going to be like that? Oh, I kicked out too. Okay.
I would have. I just would have got a kick if he got pinned right after that F5 at the start of it.
Yeah.
that would have been it for me, but
Yeah.
Well, Chris and I, we were both of the same opinion when we saw the first F5, and we immediately thought main event of WrestleMania 25 and how much it sucked. When, it was Orton and Triple H both pulling off their finishers at the beginning of the match, and it was kind of a lame match. But when that happened, that's how I felt like, oh God, this is gonna suck. Okay, F5. Well, now we're gonna see an attitude adjustment, and then we're gonna start seeing collar and elbow tie-ups. No, this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
But that's not the route they took. And after that initial I was like, oh. Oh, all right. And I was kind of reveling.
He actually makes those sound effects when he walks.
Well, no, that's great. That's good.
Yeah, that's a visceral response. I was reveling in the beatdown of John Cena because I think that there's a lot of the IWC members that just want to see Cena, you know, just be beat like that.
Yeah.
So in the moment, I was very much enjoying it.
Yeah.
Now that we're out of the moment, I don't like it because it's created two problems. One, they're dropping the ball on the way they should be selling that beatdown. And two, who's left to face Brock?
Yeah.
Your best freaking guy just got demolished by him. Who's left?
Yeah.
Who's gonna challenge him and look credible?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So those are the two problems that I see. And one of them would have been easily rectified in the last couple of weeks if you just had Cena not come out for 2 weeks, and when he does, have him bandaged or taped up and look distraught, look a little upset, look not himself. He's saying all the right things in the promo. He's saying, I don't want to beat him, I want to beat his ass. But he's saying it in the exact same tone that he's been saying.
Yeah.
You know, make him, instead of having him just say the words, I want to see the actions behind the words and have him show him being, you know, more distraught over it. And, you know, we had Dean Ambrose running around with shoulder bandages for how long? You know, we've had Jack Swagger running around with his ribs taped up for how long?
Yeah.
You couldn't put 1 week's worth of tape on Cena?
Yeah.
You couldn't do that?
Yeah.
You couldn't sell by visual stimulus the injury? Like, you needed to have some sort of action to sell what just happened. You know, now it just seems like it was some sort of weird fluke, and maybe Cena just, you know, got caught off guard, slipped on a banana peel, and that's why it happened like that.
Yeah.
You know, this should have been something that would have changed Cena's character. Not necessarily saying, oh, turn him heel, like the rest of the IWC says. No, turn him interesting.
Yeah.
You know, have him do something different, you know?
So, something simple, I think I pointed out, was if he's going to be on the show, come out and just jeans and a t-shirt. You know, stop trying to shill your own merchandise, but you're still pissed off about everything. You know, that's, to me, this is the smallest little detail, but it's still a detail. You know, this shows character development or change. You know.
Well, I think I don't know. Like John's a real interesting cat in the sense that they've made him Superman.
Yeah.
So none of the rules apply to him, and in some respects, he's the benchmark. Like now, 0 to hero is recommended. Not selling during your comeback used to be a big deal. You looked at guys like Dolph, who tremendous sellers, or like Rollins, tremendous seller, or Michaels, God, you know, just on another level. But that's not wanted. They want 0 to hero because John Cena does 0 to hero. Now I get people's. I would much rather guy just not show up.
Yeah.
That it's a via satellite thing, and it's I'll be at Night of Champions, but until then you're not going to see me.
Well,
and I'm going in seclusion. However, Dean Ambrose has to go to a movie.
Yeah.
Which, you know, why? In the midst of a run, when you need baby faces, why allow it? Or why not go, hey man, you could be like The Rock, you could still show up on Mondays. We don't necessarily need to take you out, but they took him out, he's got to sell the injury. I mean, that looks pretty brutal. No Daniel Bryan, you're not sure. And Roman Reigns, no offense, no one buys it. No one buys it. Because he never looks in trouble. Because he's going the route they go, it worked for John, it's going to work for him.
Yeah. What they're doing.
Well, again, when guys are creating their comeback now, you know, it's not as simple as hulking up, throwing 3 punches, a big boot, leg drop, 1, 2, 3, let's go home. No longer that simple. And if you do that now, you got every internet wrestling fan going, well, he doesn't put in the work. You look at John, everyone complains about he's got 5 moves. That guy has so many freaking moves. He's got an arsenal. I don't know, like, I get the idea, well, change up the colors. But the reality is he is the heartbeat of the show. That's the unfortunate problem with, and they don't have anyone else. Like, I made the Doomsday reference because I felt like, including once they put it out there, that hey, there's this John Cena shirt like the Doom Death of Superman. I went, great, take him off TV. He wants a rematch. Awesome. Let's not see him for 4 weeks. Let's just not see this dude. Let's not. He took the beating.
Yeah.
You know, and they've done it in the past. Last time he faced Brock, he cut a promo. They were like, no, you got to be back next Monday. You thought you were going to. Sorry, man. You're the guy. I don't think it's his call. I don't think it's one of those things where he could probably sit there and go, Vince, I think it would make sense for me to just sit down for 4 weeks and let me sell this, let Brock and Paul get all the heat. I made my triumphant return. I still don't get the job done. Oh, well, we'll take me off TV for a little bit longer. And unfortunately, what do you do then? Because now you've lost the big main eventer. Now, mind you, I'm all for the non-hokiness. I think sometimes, yeah, he comes in and it's like, you lost to Rock and it was just another day at the office.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, the reality of it is, for him, it is another day at the office. He never takes time off.
Right.
WrestleMania, it's not like he can go and have a great after party because guess what? I got to be on the road. I got to be there by 1 p.m. because, oh, it's Monday. I think it is a problem. I haven't liked the way they booked him. I haven't liked the idea that he even have matches. I don't like the idea that that he needs to prove himself. I think that's the one glaring problem with it. Is he's ultimately your most bankable star. Treat him as such. The guy's beaten everyone that's significant on the roster outside of probably Taker at this point. I think that's why everybody was so, please God, let's see.
I think a lot of the issues branch off of the biggest issue that I've had for quite some time is that 3-hour Raw is too fucking long. You know, when like he didn't like the idea of having a part-timer on there because he needs to be on the show. If they can't work with the pieces they have now, why screw up Lesnar too?
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to work with what you got when you have it. That way, when somebody else comes in, they're not stepping in shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's clean there.
Yeah.
And the 3-hour Raw is like, it'd be nice to have Cena off of television, and with 2-hour Raw, they could probably pull that off. But when you've got so much time to fill and an undercard, and you have all these other matches, and their bookings all tied up to where everyone's doing everything, and Swagger's getting beat up, and then Henry's teaming with Big Show, but now he's also fighting Rusev, and oh yeah, Nikki and Bella are doing their thing, and Paige and Paige are doing their thing, but just put them all together and mix all that up. It's just like when they don't know what they're. I think it's the 3 hours is the biggest problem. There's too much time, not enough to fill it. Let alone, oh, we also got SmackDown, we also got Superstars, we've also got Main Event. We're pulling storylines off of Total Divas. Oh, hey, we've also got NXT coming. There's too much going on.
Yeah.
It's way too much going on.
Any other thoughts about the way?
That's no. I agree with what Chris was saying about that. It's just too much. It wouldn't be so bad if they actually had decent storytelling going on. But especially on this past week of Raw, I'm just like so. Like, really, that's the best you got? You know, that's what you can do with the product that you have?
Yeah.
Really? No, I'll watch Impact, sorry. That says a lot for me.
Nah.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on, speaking of Impact, it not getting a TV deal? I mean, right now it's all speculation. Everyone...
Right.
I'm assuming they're going to get one. I'm assuming it's gonna happen unless Spike just really doesn't want to deal with wrestling anymore.
Which is the rumor right now.
Yeah. And if that's the case and they want to go more pro Bellator or we'll just run reruns of Cops because that's easy, it's cheap, and it
gets more ratings.
Probably gets more ratings. Yeah. Although I hear that it's one of their highest rating shows overall, or is it not?
What's that?
Impact. No, I think it is. But I mean, again, I'm not a TV exec, but I think it is.
As far as new programming, I don't think Bar Rescue does that. I don't think Ink Master does that. I don't think the rest of the other shows do that. And I don't even think. I think for a time when they were doing The Ultimate Fighter, I think Impact was still doing higher ratings than Ultimate Fighter, because Ultimate Fighter had already been around for a while, the novelty had already worn off.
Yeah.
The main fighters, the teachers weren't really up to snuff.
Mm-hmm.
People were tuning into Impact more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the same boat. I'm optimistic that Spike is going to pick them up, and they just need to cut down on costs. I mean, I think the people behind TNA are starting to figure out that, hey, we've got Bully Ray, we've got Sting, we've got Kurt Angle, we've got all this top talent, and the ratings still aren't budging. Why are we still having them? Why are we still out of pocket, and why are we paying all this money for all these guys where the needle's not moving?
Yeah.
Like, if our core audience likes whatever we have to offer that doesn't involve them, and even now with a lot of the top guys going like AJ and Sting, like, why not? So I think once they start cutting out whatever other costs they need to make, so that whatever deal Spike will offer or any other network will offer them will match whatever they have.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they'll get another contract, and I think they're in that right direction.
If they don't pick up a new contract, man, what a way to go out.
Yeah.
Yes, on these last tapings in New York. Whew, man, this has been their best stuff they put out in a very long time.
But if you think about it, you know, a lot of that is former. It's like a nostalgia. I mean, like
To a point. But
I mean, I like what they're doing with Bobby for the most part. I think, again, another guy walks probably down the locker room. You just kind of go, "Wow, that's a big deal." I mean, that's that's impressive. I mean, and I've always, I liked what they did with him at WWE for the most part, but I really enjoy what they're doing with him now. Sometimes with TNA, for me, it's WWE's repetitive, extremely repetitive. I'm glad I'm not a statistician and I have to like keep up with that stuff. There's a lot of repetition. There are a lot of Wyatts versus the Usos for the millionth time, or whatever.
Steve, you so crazy.
Abel, get out.
I think like the X Division stuff or putting the same guys in different matches really doesn't showcase them.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know their story. I'm more concerned about story. And I want to kind of get into that. Like, for all the gripes, like if you could, what's the perfect wrestling product for you guys? Well, what's the percentage? I mean, is it more promos? Is it more video packages? Is it more wrestling? Is it more, spotty wrestling? Is it, because again, I mean, you bring up like PWG, you bring up ROH, you bring up, some of the quote-unquote alternatives. I think it's just younger guys or guys that just have that frenetic style.
Yeah.
Whereas when they come to WWE, it's like, whoa,
Slow down.
whoa. You do recall that the Hulk Up really got a reaction.
Yeah.
More so than a lot of the flips that you guys are doing. So let's get between that, the Hulk Up and your death-defying flips. But for you guys, I mean, because again, it being either predictable, certain guys, from being in the locker room, it is pretty much instructed, like, come up with your comeback that's recognizable so people will tell you, will start to figure it.
Yeah.
It's training the audience to get them prepared. Oh, this is what's next. I can cheer louder. I remember CM Punk having a story where he does his stuff and Johnny Ace is like, you need something to signify something. A kind of pose between your fourth and fifth. The finisher. What are you going to do? How are you going to... Look what Randy does. He slams and tears his shoulder. But he slams with this. Yeah, something. But, I mean, for y'all, like, what would be ideal? Because, I mean, you all started as fans.
Yeah.
When it was probably, like, over-the-top circus environment, a lot of gimmicks. Wasn't supposed to be real, wasn't supposed to be perceived as real. It's just a bunch of overgrown superheroes battling it out.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. I saw comic book characters coming to life.
Yeah.
And the true-to-life guys, few and far between. I mean, of course, Austin's probably the most influential guy in my life as far as wanting to get in the business and really liking it and really being drawn to it. And I think he's, But yeah, I mean, for you guys, what would make a
think
product worth watching where when you got on the podcast, it was like talking about Walking Dead?
I think
for you guys, you know what I mean? Like those reactions where it's not such a burden to have to talk about.
I think WWE has the potential to have it because they know how to adapt. They adapted to the Attitude Era to the point where they out WCW, put them out of business. Now they kind of realize, you know what? We need wrestlers.
Yeah.
So when you sign guys like Punk, when you sign guys like Bryan, like Castagnoli, Cesaro, when you've got Sami Zayn, when you've got Kevin Steen on there, when you've got Prince Devitt now, oh, you got Kenta?
Yeah.
Okay, now you got my attention.
Yeah.
But the potential's there. It's just that everything's not, it looks like everything's not where it's supposed to be as far as what the presentation is.
Yeah.
I think the few times that I've watched NXT, I think it's got a good balance of everything. It doesn't have to be all like flippy dippy X Division pinball bouncing off of everything. There could be like legitimate wrestling, and there could be promos that actually get the point across without having to say, you know what, I don't like you. You know what, this is why I don't like you. You know what, I'm never gonna like you. Like, I think NXT's got the potential to be that complete show. The reason I don't watch it all the time is because I don't want to get my heart broken like everything else is.
Or grow to hate it.
Yeah. So Takeover 2, I'm looking forward to it. We were bananas over the first Takeover and then Arrival, but I don't want to get to the point, cause like watching all the shows now, because we have to, and we have to analyze and overthink everything and point out everything that goes on. That's the kind of show that I don't want to do it to all the time, so I just leave it alone and I just watch it every now and then, you know, on my own. Just my little turn off the
maybe just review the big shows. And then like, that'd be alright.
Yeah, I really like that answer, Chris, because I would agree that maybe NXT is the most complete and the best balanced out of everything. But I'm going to answer your question, but with somewhat of a cop-out. And it's this. Long time ago, Paul Heyman said, what you have to do is accentuate the positives. If you have a roster full of flippy-dippy guys that can't tell a story, damn it, just do the flippy-dippy stuff. If you have a bunch of guys that can't wrestle worth a damn, but they're a great promo, have it be more of a story thing. So, the thing about wrestling, and I think I speak for most of IWC, but I won't be as presumptuous to say that I will. I'll just speak for myself. The thing with wrestling fans is that we like variety. We don't want a show that's just only super realistic. We want to see the high-flying, high-action moves that you know, don't require a Hulk Hogan, you know, pin-up to do. Like, oh, you just slam me with a spinning 360 pile driver? Okay, boom, I'm going to get up and kick you in the face. Like, that's awesome to see because it's really crazy athletic ability, you know? So, yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, it gives away the business. But at the same time, wow, that's really freaking cool. You know, so I want that variety. But what I would like is that there will be several different promotions that specialize in a couple of those different things. Now, if there is one that is super balanced, that strikes that in between, awesome. That's great, you know, and yeah, I think NXT would be the best example. But when you try to take some things that you can't do, but you see them doing it, they're like, man, we need to try that, and you're just not good at it, like, just leave it alone. Accentuate your positive. You know, like, TNA always stealing WWE guys and automatically, boom, you're the champ. Like, no. Focus on the dudes that you have. Focus on AJ Styles. Focus on Samoa Joe. Focus on, you know, Storm. You know, I mean, now it's a little too late for all of that, but at the same time, the point is, do what you do best and make sure that that thing is the highlight of your show. You know? And because I mean, I like the super realistic stuff. I like the super not realistic stuff. I like the cartoon characters that make me laugh. I like the super serious guys. And I think as wrestling fans, growing up as wrestling fans, we've seen it all. We've seen Doink. We've seen The Rock. You know, and we've liked both. You know, so I think that's the beauty of wrestling. The beauty of wrestling is that it is a variety show. You get the drama, you get the comedy, you get the ugly, you get the pretty. You know, and it's not the same with Walking Dead and Breaking Bad. You know, Breaking Bad had a little bit of comedy in it, but for the most part, it was a drama.
Yeah.
But it's different than The Walking Dead. You know, The Walking Dead is more like horror, gory stuff, and not that much comedy.
Yeah.
You know, but they're still really good, and I like both of them.
Yeah.
I'm not, oh, I only like horror and that's it.
Yeah.
I like horror, I like comedy, I like drama, I like it all.
Yeah.
No, you just like wrestling. Lie. Say something smart.
Oh, I'm out of here.
Professor.
I'm out of here. I think it's all about priorities.
Yeah.
To make it a good show. Ultimately, you know, they say sports entertainment and they have all these different things going on, but ultimately, it's two guys in a ring.
Yeah.
Why the commentators, that's one thing we haven't really touched on,
Oh, yeah.
is why the commentators cannot just take 2 or 3 minutes or however long the match is to just focus on what they're trying to tell a story in that ring.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the support of your own narration
Yeah.
for the company, why should we care about what's going on in that ring?
Yeah.
You know, you're already preaching. The commentators don't have to sit here and tell us that, oh, you can get this for $9.99 network. You're preaching to the choir. Pretty much your audience knows
Yeah.
you can get the network, where to find it, that they know how to download the app.
Yeah.
If they don't, they can hear Chris tell me how to do that on one of our episodes. But I think it comes down to getting your priorities right or what you want to accomplish on your show.
Yeah.
To kind of further what y'all are saying about variety and things like that, going back, I was just watching older episodes of Nitro
Yeah.
before NWO came in.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They started cruiserweights.
Mm-hmm.
That started the show, kind of get the flair going.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of move on to your mid card,
Yeah.
and then you have your main event stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know, and
Tag teams.
like I said, pepper in some things here and there, but for the most part, you have a structure of what you're what your product is.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems lately WWE is just all over the place
Yeah.
on what they want to get out there because they have so much stuff now.
Yeah.
It's like they need to kind of reel in the reins here a little bit and just slow down what you're trying to get over.
Which,
Yeah.
that was the complaint that we had about TNA, say, last year.
Yeah.
Where they were just all over the place. They
Right.
didn't know what they were doing. They didn't congeal. They were just trying so many different off-the-wall things. And at one point, we said that was a good thing about them, that they didn't have the fear. They just did whatever. And some of it stuck, but some of it didn't stick.
Yeah.
The opposite of that is WWE, I can see, has fear with that network.
Yeah.
It was maybe a month ago, not even a month ago, they literally were begging people on air. Jerry Lawler was begging people to sign up for the network. And I couldn't believe it. It was just, you've gotten to a situation where you're literally, I'm not exaggerating anything, he literally begged people to log on and sign up for the $9.99 network. I was like, really? This big billionaire company, whatever, worldwide company, is reduced to basically begging people.
Well, I think in some respects they're ahead of the curve with the network because ultimately that's probably going to become how people view content.
I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting they're ahead of the curve.
I think they were banking on it, making more than it did, and probably kind of not being short-sighted with the fact that it's like Netflix. You can one of us can have a Netflix account and go, hey buddies,
We got
username, password,
You give me your Hulu, I'll give you your Netflix.
Yeah, same thing with the network. Yeah, you do a little trading. Daily hit. I love going there. A lot of hot ladies working now, and I'm looking at workout ideas. But I don't know, man. You know, people watch it differently. You know, like you look at Netflix's model too. In some respects, I think WWE goes, "Wow, look at what they're doing." People will binge watch. I mean, I look like the Orange Is the New Black. I watched that thing in probably 2 days.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend sat there and just episode after episode. I think before the Breaking Bad series, you know, finale. I think we binge watched 1 through, you know, the first half of 5. We just went through those and like didn't matter, you know. I get that it is. There's so much. It's just so much information. They don't. I mean, they could probably do the same thing if they just threw a bunch of graphics as the commentators were talking, kind of like CNN or something like that. Just threw everything, because they practically do it now. They have the ticker tape, all that. I mean, I wish guys sold more. I wish guys. You know, I wish beatdowns meant more. You know. It's not so much about the series of moves, it could be about that move.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah. That's what this is about.
To a professional.
Okay. I don't know about that. I haven't paid. So,
you get paid to do
You're more qualified than us.
Okay. I've been in there, my bag still.
Yeah, we just have one fantasy training camp underneath.
Hey, man.
That's it.
That's
the third
more,
of us,
that's
actually.
probably more than some percent. But yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've made this, I don't want to say gripe or criticism before about what makes a match great.
Okay.
And I think at one point I pointed out that just because you do a lot of false finishes, you automatically start getting "this is awesome" chants coming from the crowds.
No.
That doesn't make it a great match.
Yeah.
That's just you're just no-selling
Yeah,
finishers.
Yeah.
And you're making it harder for other people to sell your finisher.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? As far as false finishes, kicking out of, you know, it takes like 15 finishers to finish.
Well, I think they're victims of their own success. Before it was WrestleMania. Every WrestleMania you could expect a kick out of some sort. And it was like, oh,
it was a big deal.
holy Christ.
It was a big deal.
That's changed. For me, what makes a great match is a match where I get lost in the story. Whether they're commentators or not. Like, I go to Doomsday, watch their show, and have a great time.
Yeah.
Because it's the story they're telling. You know, obviously it's Tex and Dirty Sanchez and their narration, and they're in it, and they're not talking about $9.99 for this, that, and the other. You know, they're into it. Any match that can take me back to before I got into it. Because before I got into it, I marked out for all of it.
Yeah.
I believed it. Because for those 2 or 3 hours, that was the universe I was in. I didn't care if this guy was having a contract dispute with this guy. I didn't care about who was messing with who unless it pertained to the storyline. I didn't care about the app. I didn't care about what product placement you had. All I cared about was what I was saying. And now there's certain performers, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, anytime he came out, the most successful part of his run probably was anytime he got to stun people and he couldn't really even wrestle. Wasn't even about the moves. I wish it were like that. Because, you know, like for me, I think the good match is just one that tells a great story. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a match. I remember the first time Taker and Triple H, I mean, not supposedly the first time. I mean, they forget about 17, they forget all that stuff. Much like 25, they forget about the back being broken by Undertaker. Why not talk about that? Oh my God!
Yeah.
Took out like 7 years of my career. No, but the first time Triple H and Undertaker, not a word was said, and I went, wow, that was a segment. Brock Lesnar, John Cena, phenomenal match. Because Christ Almighty, when Brock sits up and starts laughing, and you look at John's face, and he's like, what am I going to do? And then, yeah, he comes back. Then at least he took a week off. At least he didn't come back the next day. I do, you know, being taped up, I'm like, man, if they just... But that's the problem. It's another day at the office for him. I think they've never allowed him to just relish in the fact that he lost. Like The Rock. I would have had that guy off TV for a while. Like, what? No, well, you got to be back because Brock's going to kill you. Oh, my bad. This guy's going to kick you in the nuts and then he's going to throw you. You all had like your first match you saw, and that piqued your interest. And realistically, we look at the Monday Night Wars when it was at its peak. But back then, there was only so many stations. I mean, I look at my TV now, and there's like thousands of stations on. There's always something on, and then there's On Demand, and then there's Netflix. There's all this stuff. So people's attention are being pulled in all different directions. But like if you wanted to convert someone who's a non-wrestling fan to the wrestling product, and it can't be something like, well, I'll show them Steamboat Flair, or I'll show them Steamboat Savage, or I'll show them Hogan and Warrior, because you could only deal with maybe the last 2 years. What would you show them in the hopes of getting them to go, ah, that's fake, to, man, I want to tune in?
Oh, go ahead.
One, I think what you were talking about earlier, the things that I like that make a great match is when I go from this position to like this.
Yeah.
And there's been moments, even at Travis's house, where I'm dead asleep and I'll hear someone's theme song and I'll sit up like Taker and I'll put my feet on the floor and I'll just go like this.
Yeah.
Instantly, the first thing that would come to my mind would be the moment that Daniel Bryan turned on Bray Wyatt in the steel cage and he had everybody right here.
Yeah, that was...
Like storytelling, storytelling from the beginning. The commentators were actually putting over, hey, this guy's being brainwashed by Bray Wyatt, and then the whole thing of, yeah, why is he gonna let Bray Wyatt hit him with this finisher, and then breaking out of it and hearing the crowd, and then the part when the commentators needed to shut up, they just did, and they just let the story tell itself, and the crowd energize everything. I think that I wouldn't put matches. As far as what to put, I would put moments that would make people go, this isn't wrestling, this is something else.
Yeah.
You know? So I think for me, that would be the first thing.
Okay.
Wow. You kind of stole my thunder on that.
Well, I'll give you a little extra time. Again, this is going to be another cop-out kind of answer. But as somebody who's had to have successfully converted somebody into a wrestling fan, I think I know a little bit about what I'm doing here. And while it's great showing them an awesome moment that we would mark out for already being a wrestling fan, I think you would need to start with something small. You know, when I started dating my current girlfriend, Randy, she wasn't into wrestling. And it was the weirdest thing, and if I tell you right now, you'd be like, "That's what got her hooked." It's ridiculous. It was a random episode of SmackDown for no reason, except for maybe like a 1 week's worth build. There was a match between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, and it was no DQ, and that's it. And that's what got her hooked. You know, she watched it, she liked it, she was, "Oh man, you know, they're doing all this stuff, this and that." I don't think that it needs to be one of these awesome, great mark-out moments. I think what you would need to do, if you just wanted to you know, just show them what wrestling is, just show them what wrestling is.
Yeah.
You know, there's always like all these stigmas about it, you know, whatever, it's fake, and it's, you know, this and that or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, so is everything else on TV.
Yeah.
Watch this show and you might like what you see. So take a crapshoot on something that doesn't necessarily need a lot of pretext. Just, hey, just turn on one episode of SmackDown, one episode of, you know, Impact, or whatever it is that you like, that you could help explain while you're watching. Like, oh yeah, this guy is fighting with this guy because last month they did all this, but don't worry about that. Just watch it and see if you like this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah. Oh, he looks like a nice guy. Oh, he looks like a dick. Oh, he beat him up. Great. You know, like, it doesn't take that much.
Yeah.
And just ease them into it. Don't like show them, you know, the hardcore death matches that Mick Foley had where the C4 is exploding.
Yeah.
You know, start off small. This is a one-on-one match.
Yeah.
This is a tag team match. That means there's two of them versus another two. Like, take it slow. And let the wrestling work itself out with them. You know, that's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was going to be a bit of a cop-out.
You can have your own opinion even if it's wrong.
Although I will just add on to that, maybe going on to showing someone something that's maybe not live, maybe showing something that's like SmackDown, with tape, and they've had time to tweak it and produce it and put special
pipe in booze and cheers,
things like that to make it presentable to someone who doesn't watch wrestling. Yeah. You know, so who shouldn't know what everything is.
Yeah.
And that could be, you know, and SmackDown can be it can be a good show when it wants to be. But until you said up until the last couple of years, I was going to say if you want to get someone to see like the excitement of
Yeah.
wrestling itself, go back and either pick up just the Attitude Era DVD
Yeah.
or the Monday Night Wars DVD.
Okay. Yeah.
And that will give you a sense of this is what it can be.
Yeah.
Or this is what all the commotion is,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever you want to say, you know. But that's I think that would be a good sense of, hey, this is what we like about it.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of accentuates the positives. There you go.
I think I would have. I would probably show them the SummerSlam main event of this year. I would probably show them the Brock, the build-up, the video build-up,
Yes.
and then I would show them the match, and then I would go, "Here's the post with Paul," and I'd go, and the guy showed up like 2 weeks later. So,
I think we might have said this last year for SummerSlam, Brock and Punk.
yeah,
That would have been a good match to show off to somebody.
yeah,
Yeah. That was our match of the year.
It just I think it depends on what people's tastes are. If there's a fan, like a guy that we worked with, like, man, you watch wrestling, you watch that fake shit?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll give you Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk. Watch that, tell me what you think. And
Yeah.
then they're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know? If it's somebody that likes drama, that likes something suspenseful or something that gets their attention, you know what? Let me get you a Bray Wyatt promo.
Yeah.
Have him walk out to the ring and everybody's cell phone lights come out. It's like, what's up with that guy? What is he doing that? And he starts talking and they're like, oh, okay.
Mm.
You know, if they want to see some Jerry Springer shit, hey, you know what? Total Divas is on E.
Or he'll be there this Monday, or well,
Yeah,
he's
that's
there
true.
this past Monday. Now y'all have the pop culture rewind, and that really was just another project for you guys to work on together, but it was something outside of wrestling
Yeah.
to kind of combat the exhaustion that is.
It was just something that me and Chris would do. Like, we'd be recorded the Houston Wrestling Radio podcast.
Yeah.
And Abel, after drinking 2 gallons of water, is like, "Oh, I gotta go use the restroom. I'll be right back."
I gotta pee, and then this is trending on Twitter.
Yeah. So like he's gone, we're like, "What do you want to talk about?" "Oh, well, we just watched, episode of whatever and
Nice.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think.
Agents
Yeah,
of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
and-
Walking Dead,
yeah.
Transformers Prime, Ninja Turtle
And so
cartoon.
we have like 2 minutes or 5 minutes of just
A lot of water, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
just in our litter box was full up there. And then so it would just be like, I'm sure he'd find it later on, like when he's going back and editing the episode.
Yeah.
And then we would just we'd take that, and I think Chris coined it B-roll, and
Yes.
we would just tie that into we would just tack it on the end dip. So like after we're done doing our thing, we do the little
Kind of like the outro.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
okay.
just it'd just be like just 2 minutes of us just kind of shooting the shit.
Even after I started showing up later on, there were moments where we would all say, "Why aren't we recording this?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to test the mic, we just started doing a lot of stupid shit, and I think that was the first time. It was the episode where we were messing with the app. I was describing the app where we did this B-roll. Where we were just talking about stupid shit, like the Sofa Joe and Boardwalk Empire Joe and Machete Joe, and how they're gonna do
Yeah,
Joe
yeah.
this time, and then how I pretended. Abel's like, "Oh, well, I guess it'd be good if somebody would have recorded the show right now." So I pretended to intro the show and made fun of both of these guys. And then ever since then, we just started branching out and doing more idiocy like that. And somehow people were asking about it. And they were giving us suggestions like, "Hey man, the best part of the show, dude, I love that recap of Walking Dead." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Another thing too that kind of spurred off of it is that we were trying to do interactions with our listeners, where we would do thing called like push keep fire, where we would pick 3 wrestlers and decide who you want to push keep fire, and then that led to let's try something different, ask HWR, where we would say, hey, just use the hashtag on Twitter, ask HWR, and send in a question. And then a listener with the Twitter handle of DJ Hartberg decided that he was just going to send in a question about, hey, what video games do you guys like? It's like not related at all to wrestling, and we're like,
No,
yeah,
asked, what's your favorite cartoon? And that took 30 minutes.
Nice.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, the
That was
second
the
one he
genesis
did.
of
Yeah, the second one he did was about the video games. So yeah, we just like started talking about it, and we're like, yeah, we can do this.
And the thing is, with that, I've been wanting to get stuff off my chest anyways that wasn't wrestling related anyway.
Yeah,
so, but I didn't want to do like another pop culture thing just because that's everywhere. Like as many wrestling podcasts as there are, pop culture is pop culture.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put a little twist on it, a little spin, where we'll bring up current stuff that's going on with like comics or movies, TV shows, things like that. But that's only like the intro of it, pretty much, and then we'll relate that, and we'll start talking about past things like what we grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, so our first episode we did was our first video games.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, that's just an hour and a half of me and Chris just.
We covered everything. We went from Atari to tablets to online to new systems to everything we had.
Yeah.
Stuff we still have, stuff we still play.
And I think that touched a lot of heartstrings for a lot of people that listen to it. So things like that, I like to just go back and maybe talk about things that might be important to you as growing up. As, you know, nostalgia, whatever you want to call it. The second episode we did was basically just about Marvel movies. You know, comic movies. Well, mainly just Marvel. We were going to do DC, but we're going to get that later. This last episode we just put out, it was about
MTV Video Music Awards had just happened.
Okay.
I was like, man, I didn't know this was still going on. I remember MTV used to play videos. And so we started off with the awards of what we recognized, who we didn't, what we liked, and then that spurred off memories of other award shows.
Like what we grew up with on MTV. So we talked about all the TV shows and all the VJs and, you know, just different, you know, everything. So again, we're trying to kind of touch on those nostalgia aspect of it, and just put a little different twist on pop culture needs. So you can find us at facebook.com/culturerewind.
So it's good to plug. Usually guys don't because I forget to bring it up. Now, and you are working with the NWA, like is that an official capacity?
In an official capacity,
Wow.
Studio and everything.
Well, I don't know exactly how this happened, like chicken or the egg here, but I had this idea talking with, you know, one of the guys that I know that works for NWA, Colby Primo. It's like, hey, you know, would you guys ever be able to do a podcast, you know, covering the whole NWA? Because, you know, there's the NWA at the national level where, you know, everything's going on with the world titles and this and that. But then, of course, there's different NWA chapters all across the country and, well, the world, really. It's like, well, we could just talk about NWA Houston, but, you know, what would you guys be able to do to, you know, help you guys out? Because NWA is kind of growing right now. You know, there's a new management kind of in charge of everything that kind of took over, you know, in the last couple of years. So they're really starting to do some stuff. So you know, I pitched that idea to Colby, and then at a different time after an NWA Houston show, there was an after party where I actually got to talk to Bruce Starp, who's the president of the NWA, the whole thing, and you know, I talked to him about it. He's like, oh, well, you know, that might be a good idea. And a few months pass, and you know, another few months pass, and somehow the idea just got revisited when I was talking to Tony Brooklyn, who's the CEO of the NWA, who's also in charge of NWA Houston, and you know, we just started talking about it. It's like, do you think this is possible? And he's like, well, can you do it?
No.
Sure. So they kind of had the idea at the same time that I had the idea, and we just like talked about it. Boom! Next thing you know, it's Colby.
You're a big fucking deal.
Yeah. Next thing you know, Colby Primo, and then Alex Del Barrio, who actually works for Sports Radio 610, but is also their ring announcer at NWA Houston, and we all said, hey, let's do this. So we, you know, kind of researched what's going on throughout the NWA. You know, who are the champs, where they're defending, you know, what's going on in California, what's going on in Tennessee, et cetera, and let's talk about it in a podcast. And the actual NWA website, which is called NWA Ringside, it's on there. It's their podcast, so I'm just a part of it, I guess. But no, it's really cool, and you know, you want to check it out, you know, NWARingside.com.
Oh wow.
You know, so yeah, that's you know, it's funny that these guys wound up doing their own side project, and I wound up doing, you know, this side project all at the same time. But it wasn't like, oh, well, screw you guys. You know, we're gonna. No, it just worked out that way where y'all wound up doing something and I wound up doing something, and it was all, you know, hey, look at all this extra work we're doing now. This is cool. Like, Houston Wrestling Radio has opened up, you know, doors for us, and you know, none of us have
our own doors.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't gotten to the point yet where, you know, we could quit our day job. Yeah. You know, it'd be nice, you know, someday to get to that level, but for right now, you know, we're working at it, and you know, we are kind of trying to treat it as a job. You know, we're not making money or anything, but eventually maybe it can make it other doors, bigger doors open, and I'd like to see at some point, you know, this is kind of way down the line, for there to be radio shows talking about wrestling in the local markets, the same way people talk about football, basketball, you know, that type of stuff. You know, people are making a living doing that. You know, there's actual sports radio hosts that all they do is watch baseball, watch football on TV. They get on the radio between 5 and 10 and talk about it for 5 hours, and they get paid to do that. Like, I'd love to do that. You know? That would be a dream for me. So, I mean, you're a worker, you're a wrestler, you had your dream, to actually be in the ring and wrestle. Well, I don't have athletic ability, but I love wrestling. So, that would be my dream to do, to talk about wrestling and be a part of the business, so to speak, using my talents, which is my mouth. Shut up, Chris.
Okay, I'll say it. Get some knee pads.
So, anything upcoming for, anything like future episodes that y'all plan, like special guests or anything like that?
Well, HWR 100. We're on our 100th episode here now. So, what we kind of threw out on Facebook and Twitter is another special Ask HWR. I think we're just going to kind of goof off, answer fan questions, give them 2 weeks for them to, send
to
in
process
questions.
a thought and submit it.
I just thought it would be cool to do something that maybe let's just take a break from talking about the actual product for a week. And just celebrate us for a second,
What are we gonna miss, really? What we've been getting.
It'll be the same stuff next week.
You can at least wait till Night of Champions or afterwards.
There's something really important. I mean, we can talk about it, but it's not gonna have to be in a very structured. We're just gonna, have fun with it. Before we start every podcast, we break down. We have a little section for WWE, we have a section for TNA, we have a section for the Indies, and we always have a blueprint or a structure or a skeleton of what we're going to do every episode. I think we're just going to go balls out and just fuck it. Like, hey, let's just, order some pizza, watch some stuff, turn on the microphone. And
Alcohol!
This guy over here, he's always
Rage over here with that.
Well, this guy isn't.
And anything upcoming for Pop Culture Rewind? Any topics?
We try to bust out a new episode maybe every 2 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
It's not week. It was funny because when we started, it was like, let's just record whatever we want, it's no big deal. But it's like, now that I started a Facebook page and a Twitter, and I got from the actual podcast site to host it and everything, it's like, okay, I can't just do it whenever. I got I got a structure now I have to go to now.
Especially when you have people asking about it, like, when's the next episode coming out?
So, and I didn't want to I didn't want to do a weekly one. I just want to do maybe every 2 weeks or whatever, So we try to keep the topics light and fun, And
He wanted a Barbie episode, and I told him no.
Barbie hated?
Well, let's see. Wrong
podcast.
Wrong podcast.
She might be a pop culture reference,
but things like we'll get into things like cartoons and Transformers and just comic books and just different things, X-Men, things like that. It's just whatever we feel like talking about that week.
Whatever tickles your fancy.
Exactly. So that is just whenever. But Pop Culture Rewind is just on iTunes, on Stitcher. One other thing, I might as well bring it up since I'm part of it. I have another podcast.
They're just sprouting up like weeds.
It's my buddy Jeff, who's our idea to kind of do a horror movie based podcast.
Horror movie. Okay.
Horror.
Not horrors.
No W.
So we're in Texas, and the name of the podcast is Deep in the Horror of Texas.
Nice.
Yeah. So we just
very original.
I like it.
It's got a ring to it.
So but that's more of a newer podcast. We have 2 episodes out right now. The first one was just kind of us, along with our buddy Aaron. He's on there too. It's just us just introducing ourselves. And then the second episode, since we are in Texas, it's horror movies. We decided to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That makes sense.
So, which is a really good episode. I like it. So
I hope you like it.
Well, I would hope that. God, I gotta get on that damn thing.
Yeah. So again, that's just That's on Facebook as well, or you can find us on iTunes. It's Deep in the Horror of Texas. Just do a search for it.
Not Deep in the Horror.
No.
Not horrors.
That'd be a very different podcast.
That'd be one I might listen to. You're talking about like horrors of Texas? I'd be like, so where?
That's my next podcast.
Okay. That's where you all come
Live
together.
from the Gold
That's where
Cup.
you all come together. I'll be a special guest.
Oh,
We'll just reminisce about women.
Yeah.
What do you got going on, Steve?
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I have this show. I've got the Lockharts, which is the episode after you guys, and then I filmed Jasper Davis a little bit before. And
That guy.
well, we talked about the service.
You want to keep ratings, right?
I'm trying to make sure I get a hit count.
Don't talk bad about Jasper. We've had him on our show like 3 times. He's great.
He's fairly entertaining.
I love that guy.
When you get him out of the show.
Yeah. Shut up, Bruce.
Probably outside of that, man, just working with reality wrestling, just doing the backstage stuff. How are your travels with the indies as we wrap up? How do y'all like going to other shows? Do y'all get recognized?
Yeah.
Do you get any flack from any guys or?
Well, we've tried specifically to not get flack from guys.
Yeah.
When we talk about WWE and TNA, we're pretty critical.
Yeah.
That's because they've already graduated, got their masters, and are practicing.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the indies, to some degree, that's still high school.
The training wheels are still on.
Yeah, so we don't want to like talk, too bad or too condescending about some of the stuff that we see because it's to be expected.
Yeah.
Pee Wee football isn't the NFL.
Yeah.
So if a kid throws an interception, so what?
Right.
Sports references over here.
Yeah, I know. Look at that. Yeah. So when we talk about the indies, we talk about what we like, what we see, what's going on, what's good, and we try to keep people informed as to what's going on in the area in Houston.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about NWA Houston. We'll talk about ROW that you work for. We tried to, but we kind of fell off on talking about Texas All-Star Wrestling, just because there's just so much out there. There's that. There's also the other PWA, Jared Steele's, that's out there that I don't think we've ever been able to cover it yet. But there's just so much out there, and we've always said on our show that there's this saying out there. There's a popular shirt that you can find out there that says support indie wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, we like to say to amend that by saying support good indie wrestling.
Yeah.
So when we go out to a show and we like it and we see something that we like, we'll bring it up and we'll give our shout outs out there and say, hey, so and so this past week at their event, man, it was great.
Yeah.
You need to see this guy. He's an up and comer.
Yeah.
So we'll bring it up.
Even Doomsday.
Even Doomsday. Yeah, you brought up Doomsday earlier, and that's kind of goes back to what we were talking about way earlier in the conversation, which was accentuate the positives.
Yeah.
Doomsday is a comedy show.
Yeah.
You don't go there because you want to see the best technical wrestling.
Yeah.
They know that they're not trained professionals. They know that they're not technical wrestlers. They are just hilarious and funny, and they do what they do, and they do it well, very well.
Yeah.
So whenever a Doomsday show is on the horizon, man, we are on top of that because we love it. So
I'm gonna hopefully get Tex on the show at some point.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we definitely want to
harass him, get him to do another show.
I'm sure. Well, I talked to him before, and when he writes a show, it takes him a few months. So I mean, and he's trying to fine tune everything. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys. I think you are about the longest. You're about the longest.
Chris, here's
Top shot, Lockhart. Stop that shit.
This was like an hour less than yours, so I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for having us, man.